Okay, so welcome to this week's call. My name is Jackie Boyle, and I have the ultimate pleasure of welcoming back Dr. Joseph Ahrens to this week's call. And Dr. Ahrens comes with a lot of credibility, being a dual-nominated Nobel Prize scientist and having a passion in the field of health and nutrition, and a lot of degrees behind him. But the most important thing, I think, besides his education, is his passion to share his knowledge. And today's topic that we're going to be talking about is really quite an intriguing one, and it's going into understanding food labels, good fats and bad fats, and looking at counting calories. So I know that some of these areas and these topics are something that we all sometimes question and wonder if we're doing the right thing. But primarily, I just want to welcome you, Dr. Ahrens. How are you?
Jackie, I'm great. I'm thankful to be here. You know, I've got to have this mask on here because I'm only 1 meter from the computer screen. And I've been told that my computer's full of viruses. And so, and then you're probably 1 meter away. So that's like 2 meters. But this is really a pain in the neck. So I might catch a computer virus, but I'm going to take this thing off. I mean, if you think that's socially acceptable, I want to do the right thing. So here I am. I also want to tell you, see this great background? This background is totally fake. I don't live here. I don't know where this picture came from, but it's not my office. So I wouldn't even want that office. But here I am. I'm really glad to be here. I've been gone a bit. I've had a lot of issues going on and had to deal with. Plus, I was very pleased that we were able to bring in some guest speakers because nobody just wants to hear me drone on and on week after week. So, Jackie, I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah, look, Dr. Ahrens, I really want to thank one very amazing man who's been helping us out in your absence, and that's Dr. Ron Borsima Sr. He has been unbelievably a massive tower of support for us and being able to provide the assistance that we needed in your absence. So I just want to thank him whilst you're here. So thank you so much, Ron.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. So Dr. Ahrens, let's jump right into the area of which area do we want to cover first? Where would you like to head with looking at how do we understand counting calories? And, we all think that we eat well and we wonder why we have this excess, whether it's the fairies in the cupboard that come in and jump on and shrink our clothes on us. And of course, we get into the supermarket and we just look at these labels and think it's like double Dutch. So where would you like to head to with this first?
Well, we do eat good, but I don't know if we eat well. So that's a big difference there. If we look at these labels and we're all trying to actually do a good job of having a good diet. And we are bombarded with this information about calories and carbohydrates and vitamins, etc. And I know it's very confusing to people. I mean, it's confusing to me sometimes. There are a set of guidelines worldwide where when people make claims, they're supposed to, how many calories, how many carbohydrates are in a food product. They're supposed to follow a format, and it's supposed to be the same worldwide. But, you can hide a lot of information in those panels, those nutrition panels that's on the back of everything that you can get now, whether it's bread or rice or even fresh fruits and vegetables. There's usually a little sign there telling you the average calories, et cetera, per serving. And, each one of these things, calories and fats and carbohydrates and added sugars, each one of those, we could spend a couple of hours on each one of those, what that really means. What I would really like to do during this brief talk here tonight is introduce this whole subject area in general, and then we'll take some questions. But also then later on in our blog, we'll go through these individually so that people can understand what they are. The first big category is calories, and people have been taught for decades, hundreds of years about calories, and even most nutritionists today will say calories in, calories out, and what is extra just goes to fat. That's generally true, but actually it's not true for each one of us. There are differences between calories, and let me give you some examples. First of all, if you have foods made up of calories that will flood your body in processed sugars, those particular calories will definitely go to fat very readily. They'll go to fat. And you could actually gain weight while your body is starving. That really sounds quite true, but you need a certain amount of energy for you to maintain your metabolic systems. But if you have those calories that are entirely in refined sugars, they will preferentially be stored in your fat before they serve the rest of your body. So you could actually be getting what looks like on paper as adequate caloric nutrition, and you're actually not getting enough. Your body is starving, and you're getting into very poor health while you're putting on fat. And you all of us know people like that. It might be ourselves, where it appears that they have no energy, they're run down, they're attacked by many different diseases, and yet they're just getting fatter. And that is one of the reasons, because the calories that they're consuming are coming from the wrong places that is preferentially stored as fat. So probably I should back up just a moment and tell people what a calorie is. I think we most have understanding, but let's get on the same page. A calorie is a unit of heat, a unit of energy, and it's the amount of energy that's required to raise the temperature 1 degree. So 1 gram is raised 1 degree. That is 1 calorie. But in nutrition, we multiply that by 1,000. So actually, you say something has 1,000 calories, it actually has 100,000 calories. But in nutrition, we don't want to deal in all these big numbers, so we just divide everything down. And you need so many calories to sustain your life. Depending on how big you are, your composition, and how much activity you have, you'll need a certain amount of calories to just stay where you are. If you want to gain weight, you need to eat more than that you need to sustain your life. If you want to lose weight, then you need to take in less. That's the real simple story. But as I said, the more of those calories come from processed refined sugars, the more readily they will go to fat tissue, fat storage. And you can be deprived of energy and run out of energy and still put on fat. And the converse is also true. If your calories come from food that is slow to come into your system, it's resistant to digestion, those calories will more readily be burned up by your metabolic system and will not tend to go by fat. So you can have 2 diets that have the same amount of calories. One of them can be composed mostly of refined sugars, pure sugars, and another one will come from resistant starches and slowly digestible sugars. And in that case, the person that has the refined sugars will gain more weight with the same amount of exercise and activity. So that's the first thing to note, that calories are a measure of energy, a measure of heat, but it's not just how many calories do we take in and how many calories do we have to avoid. You have to choose where they come from if you're trying to manage your weight or manage your fat. Secondly, there's no such thing as spot reduction. If you have a big belly, like probably I need to get rid of some of this, you can't just do a bunch of sit-ups and work on your gut muscles. You put on fat based on your DNA. Some people put it on the belly, some on the hips, some on the thighs, and you will lose it in that order. So you can't just do a lot of gut crunches and then lose your belly. You're going to lose fat all over your body. Your body is what decides where it puts it on. And there's really, as far as I know, the latest research, there is no way to spot reduce, get rid of thighs, wrap them in things. And no, that's not how it works. So you can't really spot reduce. You need to work on a total diet to have total health across all of your body. So, you know, later on, people can ask me a question about that. Do they understand how the calories work? And refined sugars, pure sugars, I'm talking like things like table sugar, purified flour versus sugars and calories that come from more roughage in your diet and resistant starches. You know, there are even varieties of potatoes, the same weight, the same number of calories. One of them you'll get really fat on, other ones less so. And that's because of how much resistant starches they have. And, you know, unfortunately, this is not on the panel, on the food panel that you eat. That's not, resistant starches are not listed. There's only three things listed there as far as carbohydrates. First of all, you have overall calories. How much energy does this food have per serving? And then it's broken into carbohydrates. And then within the carbohydrates, it's broken down into dietary fiber, added sugar, and then everything else. And you actually have to do some subtracting yourself to figure out how much actually is in this food I'm going to eat. Well, first of all, try to avoid added sugar. That's sugar that are added that are beyond what comes to the product naturally. And I'll have an example of that in just a moment. But if you just take an orange or an apple, usually they don't have any added sugar. What you'll get in there is fiber that you do not digest, which is good for you. It keeps your digestive system moving. It is anti-cancer. It helps you be very healthy. You need a good, healthy gut. And fiber is part of that, keeps you regular. Then everything else you will digest. Some of those foods, though, you'll digest slower, and there are resistant starches in there. And you digest those very slowly. Others are really quick, like the fructose, glucose that are in natural fruits and vegetables. They get into your body immediately. So Jackie, I wonder if we couldn't pull up a screen here and show a picture of a ingredient table.
Sure
You could do that for me?
I can. I shall just jump into this one, I believe.
Okay, that's great. So here we have two different products. One of them on the right is actually happens to be pasta that has some other added ingredients in it. And if you look there on your left, you know, so we have 320 calories total per serving. This happens to be a half a cup in the US. That's about 125 mils or milligrams for the rest of the world. A half a cup, that's not a lot, but they can play with these numbers here by just changing the serving size. Be very careful. Look at the serving size. Sometimes you get into these chips, potato chips, or different snacks, and they'll say a serving is 4 pieces. Well, nobody eats the 4 pieces. They eat probably 100 pieces at a time. So be very careful of that. So we have the overall calories. And then, of course, how many fats, cholesterol. People are concerned about that. How much sodium. Sodium is what we normally call salt. sodium chloride. That's usually salt. So in salt, the part that is dangerous to us is the sodium part of that chemical. Then we get into the total carbohydrates here. This is what I was just talking about. So just take an outtake right here. How many carbs should you consume a day? Well, you know, according to most world government authorities, a natural number of carbs is around 250 grams. They said that's how much you should eat every day, a normal, healthy person of average weight, 250 grams. Folks, this is outrageous, ridiculous. And I will say that this is criminal, and it's driven by the agriculture, political part of our societies, because they want you to eat a lot of grains, eat a lot of wheat, eat a lot of soybeans, eat a lot of rice. It's a political power. And so they have caused the recommendations to be that high. I would think that a high carb diet is anything over 50 grams a day, 50 grams. You get below 50, now you're talking about low carb diet. Below 50, low carb diet. You want to get into keto, now we get down to 10, 15, 20 grams a day. So right off the bat, this one serving here on the left would knock you out of a low carb diet. Just having one, you've already taken 1/5 of your daily recommendation. But to me, your recommendation should be somewhere between 50 to 100. You get down below 50, you're on a low carb diet. So 50 to 100, that's what I think would be normal and healthy, 50 grams. So this is science, this is not politics. Right underneath that is dietary fiber. This is the part that you do not digest. You do not digest. 2 grams in this case. Well, you actually subtract those one from another, and you end up with what's called the total sugars, included added sugars. In this case, there are 50 grams of natural sugars that you digest rapidly, normally, and there's also the same amount that's added because it tastes good. People like it. It's sweet. So they come back and buy this brand again. So you are actually here 30 grams of total sugars. Well, oh, that's not total sugars because there's something missing here. How can you take 56 minus 2 minus 30? You still got a whopping amount of sugars that are not being disclosed on this chart. I mean, look at that. This is like 56 minus 32. 24 grams are floating around somewhere because they don't fit on this chart. And these charts are very, very political. Very political. Over on the right, this is the same information, but this is as prepared. So what happens is you end up adding a little butter, adding a little more salt as you're cooking the stuff. And then, of course, everything bumps up a little higher. You've got to look at the end product. And you do end up like the sodium. If you're worried about how much sodium is in your diet, well, you know, you put in added salt because it just tastes better. I get that, but just be aware of it. And and then we have, of course, the vitamins at the bottom. Always include the vitamins if you want to know what's in there. But people should pay attention to the total carbs, total carbohydrates, dietary fiber. Hey, the more the merrier in dietary fiber. That is very good for you. The total sugars, it's a little sneaky because they don't really tell the whole story. And added sugars, try to avoid. Let's look over here on the right. This is a box of pasta. It's already got some spices and stuff in it. If we go down there to total carbs, here, they don't have any included sugars in it. So this is really good. They didn't. But what is going on here? Total carbs, 43 grams. Dietary fiber, 1 gram, the good stuff. Total sugars, less than 1 gram. And there's no added sugar. What happened to the other 42 grams of sugar? This is criminal. And there's no way for me to even know as much as I know about food, there's no way that I will even understand where these are. They're hidden. And there's a lot of calculations that you can legally do to hide what is really going on in this food. This is why maybe some of you saw the promotional video I did for this talk. This is one of the packages I was reading. Where are these carbs? They're hidden. Well, I want to tell you what, they really are. You are digesting them. And in this case, you have around 41 grams of carbs that are not on the panel, and yet you are digesting them. Okay, it's better than nothing. So as far as carbs go, just remember, dietary fiber, that's good. The more the merrier. Those go into your system. Your body uses them as a bulking agent. They're important for good health. The bad boys are the added sugars. Try to avoid those and then look at the total sugars. And sometimes you can't make any heads or tails out of these panels. It is type criminal. Let us talk then a bit about fat. I do like this, that the world has moved to tell you how much saturated fat and how much trans fat is in your diet. That they've broken this down. This is good. Trans fat is the bad boy. Avoid them. This will kill you. This is Crisco. Crisco, I think, is a worldwide brand. Trans fats are synthetic fats. They do not exist in nature, and they will give you a heart attack. Stay away from them. Saturated fat, on the other hand, is very controversial. And they come from things like animals, and also things like from coconut oil. So I'm asked very often, well, coconut oil, that's got a lot of saturated fats in it. And saturated fats are really bad for you. Some saturated fats are bad for you. Fats are hundreds of different types of fats. And saturated, you don't have to actually know what that means, but it means that on a long chain of carbons, like beads in a necklace, every little spot on the side of those carbons are filled up. They're saturated. There's no room for any more hydrogens. But there's a lot of different ones. There are branch saturated fats. There's short chain branch saturated fats. There's long saturated fats. There's short saturated fats. And some of them are exceptionally good for you. The ones that are found in coconut oil are very good for you if they are the short chain branched saturated fats. And they are, and like it's called linoleic acid. That's one of them, the very best ones for you. Actually, that particular saturated fat has been shown to reduce seizures in children with epilepsy. And also people that have Alzheimer's have been shown, if they will drink coconut milk, not coconut water, coconut milk, that will reduce their problems with short-term memory. Actually, that we are one of our products that we're working on right now has saturated fat from coconut oil in there. But a lot of the other saturated fats are not very good for you. So don't let someone tell you that, oh, saturated fats are bad for you. No, they aren't. Some of them are really great. One of the best ones is mother's milk. Contains a lot of saturated fat. Nature itself produces saturated fat in the diet of a child. It is good for them. Don't let people say, oh, I can't eat saturated fat. So we're going to have to go into that in a lot of more detail on one of our blogs, but I'm understanding you when you get confused and don't know exactly how to read a lot of these labels. Look at the calories, and you don't necessarily have to avoid fats. You need to avoid too many calories. Don't eat too much. You need to have as much dietary fiber as you can, and look out for that total sugar, because just like here on this one on the right, completely hidden. 41 grams of sugar is hidden in this panel that you are consuming. But because of the way the laws are written, they don't have to list them exactly where they come from. You know, you could call, for a while, people were calling sucrose sugarcane extract and trying to hide the fact that sucrose, table sugar, was in the product, and they called it extract from sugarcane. Well, that actually, somebody caught on to that, and now that's illegal to do that. But that's an example of how the industry is trying to hide things from us. I'm not for a bunch of new rules and regulations, that's for sure. But you've got to stay on top of this and go ahead and research the information of a product you have. Yeah, I mean, there is good information on Wikipedia. You just have to use your brains to figure out what's true or not true. But go ahead and research and find out what is the actual number of sugars in these products. So Jackie, I wonder if we've talked about total fats, that not all fats are bad for you. There are a lot of calories, but a lot of fats are very good for you. They are protective. They actually are healthy. And I encourage people to consume a lot of these specific saturated fats. I personally am not afraid of animal fats like butter. I mean, it's certainly so much more better for you than margarine, which contains all those trans fats. Avoid trans fats. Then as far as the calories are important. Don't have too many calories. Meet people, whether you're male or female, how much you're working out. You need either 1,500 or 2,000 calories a day to have a maintenance level. There's plenty of sites that will calculate this for you. Try to stay there, but take your calories from things that digest slowly. Here's what I do. I particularly like salads. I know a lot of people don't like vegetables or whatever. I eat as much salad as I can. That's without ranch dressing all over it. I take a vinaigrette, which is, basically an olive oil and a vinegar, and it's sweetened a little bit with raspberry. My favorite is balsamic. And I eat as much vegetables as I can. I fill up on that. I always have a salad every single night. Then after that, I have some vegetables, and I try not to have potatoes and rice all the time. I eat the squashes and carrots and broccoli. And broccoli. One day, what we all do, I'm going to put up some of my favorite recipes. I just had a broccoli cauliflower casserole the other night that was just absolutely fantastic, and it was solid keto, meaning low carb, had very little actual carbs in it. It was just fantastic. I eat that. And then I have protein. In my case, I eat animal protein. I eat more chicken in order. I eat chicken, fish, pork, beef. I don't eat a lot of beef. I prefer fish. And man, I live on a lake, and my son-in-law has caught a couple of fish, and we're going to have a great meal tomorrow. And even when I bread it, the breading that we use is not bread. It's a keto type of covering. And I'll share those with people in the future. That is how actually you should eat. You should start out by putting as much fiber in your body as you can. That's through like lettuce and things of that nature, and broccoli, raw vegetables. Eat a salad. And then I have enough vegetables on my plate to eat those. And the last thing I eat then is the animal protein. And I've calculated that over and over, and it for calories and number of carbs, it fits perfectly with my own particular metabolism. Well, I think I've kind of talked people to death here on that subject. Do we want to take some questions?
I actually think it's been extremely informative, Dr. Ahrens, because when we do look at food labeling, it's quite bombarding. And looking at how you explained it, these hidden sugars, I'm sure that everyone's possibly, if they haven't already, are going to go in and have a look at these labels with a completely different outlook on things. But there are a couple of questions here from Rita. Rita's asked that if we take 3 amylin capsules while we consume 40 grams of carbs, does that mean that amylin removes all of the carbs?
That's a good question. No, it does not remove all of the carbs. What it will do is slows down the digestion of those carbs. It basically takes the real fast digestible starches and shifts them into the resistant starches because it inhibits the enzyme that digests starches. So it causes those starches, slows it down, the conversion into sugar, and it's sugar that's what goes from our gut into our bloodstream. It slows that process down. It also closes the doors a little bit that are in our gut, causing the sugar to go from our gut into our bloodstream. So it does, that's 2 ways it slows it down. It slows down the conversion of starch, like that is in rice and potatoes, slows that whole process down so the sugars aren't immediately available. And then secondly, it slows down the absorption across the barrier from the gut into the bloodstream. It slows that process down. So it does not, we do not want to eliminate them. If you stopped it entirely, those starches and sugars would just go on into your lower gut, and then all those microbes will start chewing on it, just like making wine and beer. They produce a bunch of carbon dioxide and you just explode. I mean, that's what happens with most of these synthetic sugars. You put them in your food, they taste sweet, but you don't digest them. But your gut bacteria do, and they produce an explosive problem for a lot of people. So no, it does not remove them. It slows it down. However, the calories that are coming from those starches and sugars that are slowed down, about 1/3 of them are kept from being digested. So it does reduce your intake of calories into your bloodstream. That's kind of like what carb blocker means. I don't really like that term, but it does slow them down and it does block some of those carbs from being digested.
Okay, I've got another question here, and it is from Graceland, and just asking in regards to that a friend's borderline diabetic and has also severe arthritis in her fingers and started on Amylin C. Sugar is now regulated and controlled, but the severe finger arthritis is still aching. Should she transfer over to the formula Amylin M?
Well, I think that Amylin M is probably the best formula all around. And so I would absolutely recommend to switch over to M because it is more anti-inflammation. And if she finds that their blood sugar does not come back up, go on the M. That's the only difference between those 2 formulas. They both counter inflammation and they both help manage sugars. But the C is more focused on lower blood sugars. The M is more on the inflammation part. So M is the best all around. And see if the sugars are controlled enough on M, stay on the M.
Okay, thank you. Thoughts on supplements in regards to supplemental fiber like psyllium husks? What are your thoughts in that area?
Oh, that's fine. As I said with those labels, the more the merrier. You actually can't eat too much fiber. I mean, we're talking about anything from psyllium husk. That's actually the active ingredient in some of these liquid fibers like mucinex. So, and it could even be sawdust, really. That's a fiber you cannot digest. Termites can, we cannot. So yeah, you can't really have too much fiber as long as you're still getting nutrition. You don't want to just fill up with fiber and not have the vitamins, etc., in your diet. But yeah, that'll work. That's very good.
Okay. The lovely Jem Melendez. So talking about how about stevia? It's got 0 calories, but do you recommend it as a sugar replacement, especially when we're looking at Filipinos eat a lot of rice? And just thinking that they exceeded the recommended daily calorie intake there.
Yeah, stevia is a very interesting product. It is not a sugar. What it does is causes you to have a sweet sensation. So there's several different types of artificial sweeteners, and that's the first thing you should hear is artificial. Stevia is actually not artificial. It's not a compound made by humans artificially, but we do extract it, and it's something that we normally don't eat, but it causes you to have a sweet sensation. Absolutely, I will recommend it, but not as a silver bullet here, because there's still problems with having something that tastes sweet. And this is also true for the sugar alcohols like xylitol. Xylitol tastes sweet, tastes like table sugar, more or less, and you do not absorb it. So it is a sugar, and you take it, it tastes sweet, but it goes into your gut, and also your bacteria might like it, and they might also cause your guts to explode too. But I actually use xylitol in several things to replace table sugar. I actually make what I call a keto ice cream, and most of the sugar, normal natural sugar you would put in there, I put xylitol in there. You can't just put a one-to-one substitution because it doesn't have the texture. Sugar is there also to help the texture of ice cream. Getting back though to stevia, anything that tastes sweet, even though it doesn't have any calories, you have a response in your brain that says, oh, we're eating something sweet. And it gets insulin ready to take on the glucose. It thinks you're getting ready to get glucose into your blood. So it pumps up the insulin ahead of the fat. It wants to be prepared. So it can also, you can get into insulin spikes, and whatever sugar is there, that insulin immediately takes and shoves it in the fat tissue. That's insulin's job. Insulin's job is to take excess sugar, put it in the fat tissue. If you eat things that are not very sweet, you won't have that mind response. And also, as you have these slow sugars and starches that are digestible resistant, called a resistant starch, like for instance in sweet potatoes, that has a lot of resistant starch in it, even though it tastes a little sweeter than regular white potatoes. That enters your body slowly, and you don't get the insulin to show up immediately and jam it into fat tissue. And you can get by without having insulin spikes. That's the best digestion. So use these things with caution. Don't just say, oh, stevia has no calories. Well, that's true, but it will cause your brain still thinks it's sweet and gets insulin ready ahead of the fact. And then what sugar is in the diet, it'll pump it in fat tissue. So be moderate, moderation in all things.
Okay, a couple of more questions, Dr. Ahrens, we'll try and squeeze in. But when we talk about coconut oil, how do we recognize what a short chain coconut oil is? Like how do people go looking for coconut oil and understand the difference?
Okay, well, first of all, coconut oil, if it's natural and hasn't been processed, and that's fairly straightforward on label, whether it's just straight coconut oil or has been filtered and processed and heated. Straight coconut oil has the right fatty acid chains in it. It's the highest fats in the coconut oil are the good ones. It's like 80% versus 20%. So if you go for a natural coconut oil, and there's many of them that are actually now fairly inexpensive, as long as it's not heated and processed, look for natural, unprocessed coconut oil. It can be filtered, nothing wrong with being filtered, but it shouldn't be heated and processed. It will have the right amount. And we're talking about the milk, and the best ones are in the cream. So you get a can of coconut, and usually if it's not homogenized, the cream will rise to the top, and you get, just like in cow's milk, you will get cream on the top and the bottom. It's the cream that is good for you. So I can't, you know, I don't even listen to my own words, but if I have the frame of mind and can remember, I like to take a cup of the stuff every day. It is what I preferably fry things in, olive oil or coconut oil, one of those two. Olive oil is not a high temperature oil. It starts smoking at a lot of temperatures that you want to cook. So if you need something high, use coconut oil. Olive oil is full of these same very good fatty acid. Fatty acid means fats, fatty acid. They both have what you need as long as it's not processed.
Okay. I've got one last question, and I know we're really pushing you here, Dr. Ahrens, but it's a question that comes up a lot, and probably I would say 70% of the people on this call would have experienced this at one point in time. And then I want you to share with who our next host is for next week after that. So stay tuned, guys, because we've got a really great guest next week with Dr. Ahrens. But Rose has asked, what causes bloatedness? Like, this question comes up over and over and over again. So how can Emulin assist in that? But primarily, what can be some of the causes of somebody getting bloated?
Well, there's two reasons for being bloated, and one of them is from water and retention, and the other one is from gas, one of the two. And the first of all, do have enough fiber in your diet. I will knock out at least half of it. And you can, and when I say fiber, it doesn't mean, you know, like straw or something. It could be like psyllium. It could be actually some of the oatmeals, this rolled oats, stone ground grits, cornmeals that have a lot of fiber in them. Take as much as fiber as you can. You know, I personally do not even like whole wheat bread, but and most of the whole wheat bread that's on the market does not really have as much fiber as you would think it does. Look for as much fiber as you can, not 1 or 2 grams. I'm talking about 20, 50, 100 grams a day. You need to take in as much fiber as you can. You also get this from vegetables, any raw vegetables in particular. The cooking process breaks them down and they now become digestible. So eat a lot of raw things, raw lettuces, leafy lettuces, raw vegetables, if you can stand that stuff. I personally, fortunately, I really enjoy that, but eat that stuff, and that will at least cut in half any of the bloating. Secondly, a lot of the bloating comes from some of these sugars that we don't digest easily, but our bacteria do. And when you start getting out of balance in your biochemistry, your body always seeks to be neutral. So if you have too much salt in your diet and you have too much, that will go into every cell of your body, not just in your stomach, but I mean, if you have too much salt, this is a really good example, too much salt in your diet. You have too much salt in your little pinky on your foot and too much on the tip of your ear and your nose. And your body compensates that by flooding the cell with water. And that is the second cause of bloating. Now, each one of us, though, of course, have different metabolisms, and some people get extremely bloated by eating broccoli. And as an example, it's a good thing to eat, but a lot of people can't tolerate it. They get bloated because it produces gas in your intestines, and because of the sulfur in broccoli, it gets into every cell, and your body starts pumping water into your cells, and you get bloated. So those are the two reasons. So I wish I could give a diet for each individual person here, but if you're bloated, that's the two reasons. That's like 90%. You're getting bloated from gas, or you're getting bloated because your body's taking water, and you bloat on your ankles. The reason your ankles is because that's just really where it shows up. It's actually everywhere in your body, but your ankles are a little bit weak, and the bloating often shows up in your ankles. Your body's taking on water because it's trying to dilute something in your diet.
Okay, well, I want to thank you very much, Dr. Ahrens, and please stay on, everybody, because I'd like to finish the recording, and then we'll introduce who we're bringing on next week. But I do want to thank you so much. You know, whilst I know that we've all tried our best to deliver week in, week out, nothing obviously beats having you here personally, and that has shown by people that have joined us on the call. So it's been really informative, and I know I've personally enjoyed it, and I know from all of the comments that are coming through that a lot of people have learnt a lot too. Please stay tuned, everybody, for what's coming into Dr. Ahrens' brand, because there are going to be new things that are coming forward too. So I want to thank each and every one of you. And Dr. Ahrens, is there anything that you'd like to finish off with before we finish this recording?
Well, this is all kind of new for everyone here. We've just been doing this for a few months. And our idea is we want to build a database of good health information. And that includes not only just your diet and supplements like Emulin, but we'd like to comment on other supplements. Are they good? Or are they bad? I'd like a place for people can come and ask us questions. What about chromium? I've heard so much about it. Is it good? Is it good for weight loss? And what about children with epilepsy? What's good for them? We want to be a source of information that people can trust, and that's really what we're starting to do. We're in our infancy, but that is where we're moving towards. So just like tonight, I want to get one day where we will have a place where you can go and look at detailed discussions on these food panels, teach you how to interpret them. I can't even do it like that. 41 missing grams of sugar. I mean, that's a crime, but that's the law. I just want to, at least when I can't tell you, at least tell you to beware. I've just put that one away. That's actually from my own personal pantry, and I didn't even notice it. So next time, I'm not going to buy that again. That's the power there. Don't buy it again. And also, what about some tips? What do you eat? And give you some recipes, and you have a community of people that are helping each other and exchange these concepts and ideas. That's what we're shooting for. Diet, exercise, mental health, a good, strong social support network.
Thank you, Dr. Ahrens. And I know there are some really exciting things that we're working on behind the scenes. So stay glued to this place, and please share, as Dr. Ahrens said, if you've got some really great information that you're wanting to share with us in his group, please do, because we're learning off of each other. So I want to thank you, Dr. Ahrens, so much, and I look forward to seeing you next week. And we may as well actually even put this on this week's call. Do you want to actually let us know the exciting news for what next week's topic is? Because it's a big passion of mine, and I'm really excited on you being back on board again, but also what the topic is, but also who our special guest is.
Well, our special guest is going to be none other than Dave Jordan. So Dave is, a lot of people know him as the CEO of Valentis, but his background is heavy into athletes and sports. And he himself was an amateur hockey player. He's avidly interested in sports. And a lot of his community are sports professionals. And, I was talking to him about the Buccaneers that just won the U.S. Super Bowl. He says, oh, yeah, you want to meet Tom Brady? I'll arrange that. So he's plugged into the sports community, and he's going to share with us the challenges that people like him that were active athletes. And boy, if you don't know what a professional athlete goes to, you don't, unless you've been a pro and involved with them. The training is unbelievable. And then they go into a civilian life and they've got trouble. And what he's doing in his own life, he's going to share that with us. And it's not all about, promoting products, because this site is not about promoting products. I'm very glad to talk about Emlyn and some other products, Valentis products or not Valentis products, but really it's about sharing information. And he's going to share with us what he's doing, the challenges that he has taken upon himself in 2021, and he'll be around to answer some questions.
Wow, I know I'm excited. I don't know about everybody else, but the elite athletes, I know I look at Amy Greenfield, like you've got a young son who's just made it into the big time, and I look at my husband, like he's an ex pro athlete as well, and he's still in that space, coaching, lecturing, So I'm watching what he's doing on a daily basis too. So next week, invite, because I know listening to Dave, it's always theatrical and it's exciting. But no more exciting, Dr. Ahrens, than having you back on board. Like, we are really excited to have you back. We welcome you back. And I thank everybody for being here today.
Thank you.